No G with a Z, POD, Smoking Guns Podcast. We're with you again on Monday night where we belong. After we took that weird Thursday night show a few weeks ago, we're back with you on Monday night. We are a podcast here in San Antonio that deals with football, professional football in San Antonio. That includes the San Antonio Brahmas of the UFL and the San Antonio Gunslingers of the IFL. And we'll be talking a little bit about both of those teams today. I am Philip Higginbotham. I am joined, as always, by RC Woods. RC, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. How about you?
You may notice that we are missing one. I'm doing great. I'm always doing great. You may notice we're missing one of our normal crew. Leo is not feeling well. He's under the weather. Leo, get to feeling better soon. And if you're watching live, why? Go get some rest. You can watch the show later. You don't need to check in right now. We are going to talk football, and I want to bring on our first guest really quickly. Normally, we banter and talk for a few minutes, but we've got such a short window with this person, and I'm really excited about having her on and picking her brain about Brahma's training camp, where she's gotten to spend some time. Her name is Mary Rominger. She is part of the KSAT12 sports coverage team, and she's been covering the Brahmas for a few weeks now and been at camp and even got to try out some new technology that I've never seen anybody use in football before. Mary, thanks for coming on and spending some time with us.
Thank you for having me. You guys are awesome. Great start to the show. I'm excited. The Brahmas have been really fun so far.
So let's start a little bit with you and get to know you a little bit.
Yeah.
Go ahead, RC. Okay, let's talk a little bit about you.
I was just going to say, I was really excited to actually talk to you. I think we have a delay.
All right. Mary, you are from California originally, but it looks like you spent some time in Minnesota. So I noticed that you did some hockey coverage. Is that right? All right. We may not have Mary. We may have lost her in the midst of our
I think she's frozen.
Issues. She is frozen. Let's go ahead and pop her off, and we'll see if Barry's able to jump back on with us shortly.
Well, okay. Well, I did want to talk maybe a little bit about her intro. So I know she's the first female sports anchor woman for KSAT12. She originally was in Minnesota covering hockey, like you mentioned. She moved down here about 6 months ago. And she's been covering the sports for KSAT12. She's been covering the Spurs and also the Brahmas. And so she was going to talk about training camp that she's been to. She's been able to talk to some of the football players from here in San Antonio, like Corey and Cavion. And so I was really excited to meet her over the phone, and she was really excited to be here and kind of give us an inside scoop on what's going on during training camp.
Well, let's bring her back on right now. Mary's back with us. Mary, sorry we lost you. Technology is what it is. It's great until it's not.
My phone overheated, and I'm sure there was something else that happened. So I'm sorry. That was ridiculous. I blame iPhones.
Oh, no.
So I actually wanted to start off. You came from Minnesota where you did some hockey coverage, and since everybody down here has no idea that's a sport or a thing, I was very excited to actually get to talk to somebody that has covered hockey and spent time with hockey. I'm a huge Dallas Stars fan and hockey fan. So it's nice did you enjoy hockey? Did you enjoy coverage of hockey?
Oh, yeah. Honestly, hockey is my number one sport. I love hockey with all my heart. So growing up in SoCal, I grew up a LA Kings fan, and I was in attendance for one of the two Kings Stanley Cups. My dad had season tickets, and I went to all of the games that I could with him. So yeah, definitely a diehard hockey fan. So when I went to Minnesota, getting to cover like the high school hockey scene was really, really cool. And then also when I was where I was in southern Minnesota, the D1 hockey team went to the Frozen Four while I was there. So we got to go to
Nice.
Boston and cover the NCAA Frozen Four. So it was cool. Minnesota pro hockey isn't as successful, but the high school and college scene is really legit.
Right. The missions highlighter, a friend of ours that follows the show, says bring hockey back to SA, iguanas or rampage. I would prefer the iguanas. Like I never went to an iguanas game, but I would prefer the iguanas over the rampage. I did make a couple of rampage games, but that just, I don't know. There's something about the rampage that never stuck with me. And I guess a lot of San Antonio felt that way because they're not here anymore.
Yeah.
So you've gotten a chance to, by the way, I did want to mention,
That's
since
true.
you're a Kings fan, the Stars beat the Kings pretty bad the other night. Just thought I'd throw that out there. I thought I'd make sure you knew that. If you didn't know that, I wanted to make sure you knew that.
No, thank you. I appreciate you bringing that back. You know, right now,
You bet.
with where we're at in the sports landscape, I've been watching more NBA than I have NHL, and it
Mhm.
never used to be that way. But while I was in Minnesota and they got a young star, Anthony Edwards, and they were on the come up, I started paying more attention to the NBA. So NHL is on the back burner a little bit, but it still hurts that
Yeah. Yeah.
that still
Well,
hurts.
glad I could help. Glad I could do something to help.
Thanks,
That's what's
Phil.
great about
Thanks, Philip.
sports. That's what's fun about sports.
It is, yeah. Yep.
So tell us a little bit about the Brahmas.
So tell us
How
a
have
little
you?
bit about
What did you say? Sorry. It was a late echo technology.
Yeah. Yep. Go ahead, Artsy.
I was just going to ask Miss Mary, tell us a little bit about the training camp
Yeah.
and what you've been able to observe with the Brahmas.
Yeah, so I had the opportunity for KSAT12 to go up north to Brahma's training camp for 2 days. So we made the drive up one day, and then the following day we came back down to San Antonio. So it was a busy couple of days, and we of course were at South Lake Carroll, where Dragon Stadium, where they're holding their training camp. And I was specifically there to pay closer attention to the guys with South Texas ties. So quarterback Quentin Dormady, Savion Patton, and Corey Mayfield Jr. And the Corey Mayfield Jr. and Savion Patton seemed to be on a great track. At that point, it was before the initial roster cuts. So from what I gathered, there wasn't a whole lot to worry about as far as their future potentially hitting waivers. Like you could tell Wade Phillips and the Brahmas really value them as players, as people, and it was cool to see just how they're adjusting to the new UFL lifestyle. It doesn't seem like it's too different, but I mean, inevitably there's going to be a bigger audience. There's going to be more eyes, and the competition is higher. So there was even at one point, I mean, you have a room like as far as the DB's room, you have a room that has pretty much all former NFL talent, or at least guys that have gotten a chance to be on a training camp roster with an NFL team. So the talent is just that high, and you guys know that. I mean, all with it being a Brahmas podcast, I'm sure you guys have covered the USFL and USL merger extensively, but to see that up close and personal and how intense those position battles are was really cool. And then Quentin Dormady, of course, in a QB battle with Tom Flacco and Chase Garbers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, Garbers was with the Raiders organization last year. Quentin has been everywhere when it comes to his football background. So, man, like seeing just how intense camp was. It wasn't all fun and games. It was legitimate competition, and it felt like after practice, when I had the chance to speak with them, it felt like they were in the middle of a really important time of their lives.
So you got to spend some time specifically with the quarterbacks, and I want to talk a little bit about that video I just saw today. I think it came out today of you using the VR technology with the quarterbacks. But you got to spend time around that room with those three guys, Quentin Dormady, Tom, and Chase. Um, do you get a sense of who's leading that battle right now, or is it very much up in the air?
Man, I tried really hard to just kind of pick up on where the coaches' heads are at, because I asked Wade Phillips, I asked offensive coordinator AJ Smith, who's the front runner? Like, who are you seeing right now that's standing out? And they're so complimentary of specifically both Chase and Quentin. I think those two kind of bring the most to the table. It looks like they have different strengths. As far as who's stepping up leadership wise, they're both such chill dudes. Like, honestly, you could have a full conversation with both of them, hear them interact, and they seem like they're both very level headed. And I think to be at that level as a quarterback, it's hard to tell. But from what I saw, I don't even want to speculate, to be honest, because my football IQ isn't that high. But I do think, just given the background of what Chase was around last year with guys like Derek Carr, I think what he can bring, if the Brahmas really want to take it to the next level, it could be that. But then again, Quentin has so much to offer. He has a very powerful arm. It is his first time, he said, in this offense, in AJ Smith's offense. So that adjustment could potentially hinder him. But you mentioned the VR headsets. It sounds like there's not going to be much of a hindrance because of how quickly that VR headset is helping them learn the offense.
So talk a little bit about that. You only had 2 minutes in kind of a segment to kind of talk about this VR technology they're using. I want to give you a little more time than that, because I bet 2 minutes isn't enough time to cover it. So tell us a little bit about the way they're using VR technology with quarterbacks in the quarterback room.
See, you get it. 2 minutes is not enough time. And a lot of people don't realize that in local TV, you just don't have the time to really tell a full story. And if you have the ability in few words to tell everything, then you're very talented, and I admire you. But so it was such an amazing experience, because it was my first time in a quarterback's room. And I talk about sports, right? Like, I'm supposed to be this expert, but that type of access is unheard of. Are you guys familiar with AJ Smith? Like, have you gotten a chance to learn his personality?
No, I've never spent any time with him. We watched him from afar last year as he did the Houston Roughnecks offense. I love what he puts together. It's innovative a little bit, but it leans into getting the ball out to the edges, kind of trying to make space out in the edges for things to happen. And I kind of like to see that sort of offense where all the guys are tight here in the middle. Getting that ball out to the edges is something that he seems to like as you watch from afar.
Yeah, those were some of the first words he said. High-powered offense. We're scoring lots of points.
Right.
That's pretty much what he could have left it at. But so being around him was really cool, because if you saw from that 2-minute clip, he's talking Mamba mentality. He's talking tens and thousands of reps with this VR headset. Like, he has such a awesome, like, he's such a motivator, a wonderful perspective, and talking to him was just really cool. So I'm excited for Brahmas fans to get to see more of him and learn more about him. I think he's an up and comer. I mean, just from talking to him, and maybe he just spoke to me personally, but as far as like just the way he talks and his personality, but he seems like he's an upcomer and he can really climb the ranks in the NFL world. But so going back to the VR headset, speaking of AJ, he invented the software, the technology that it starts with a GoPro. It's a 360 GoPro that during practice, when they're going through reps and plays, they film behind the quarterback, so you get a 360 view. And when you're so now fast forward to when it's time for film sessions, the quarterbacks put the VR headset on and they get that 360 view. So the way AJ described it is, let's say Quentin, it's like play action or something. I don't know. Again, football IQ is not as high as AJ Smith. But
Right.
if
Oh,
you're
who's this?
make a play, and then over here there's something else that could have been different, or you want to analyze, what the running back was doing, or whatever. That's what the VR technology allows you to do. Yes, you get that from a bird's eye view, but it's not nearly as effective as the perspective, the lens of a quarterback. So when I put the headset on and I got to see it for myself, I'm like, holy cow! You see how difficult, like even just with certain route running, how difficult it is to pick up on something that's happening when there's traffic, right? Bird's eye view, like we all know. You can see it all, like, oh, that was easy. You didn't see that he was wide open right there. It's like, no, from the field level perspective, it's not very clear.
Right. Because on a bird's eye view, and anybody who thinks about it can really, understand why this is valuable. A bird's eye view, and you see a receiver cutting across the field, and you're like, why didn't he hit that guy? He's wide open. You come down to field level, and you realize that there are 5 offensive linemen and 4 defensive linemen standing here blocking your vision of that. That window to see that is only this much. Now, what I love about this technology that they're using is they get to run that over and over and over again. AJ Smith talks about 5 reps turning into 10, 20, 40, hundreds of reps that you can turn one play into, because they can do reps over and over in this virtual reality and recognize things much faster from that field level. I thought it was a really neat segment that you did. I think it's great technology, and I love the way you explained it, but I knew 2 minutes wasn't going to be enough time to open it all up as much as you wanted to.
Yeah, and that's just like recency, what I remember from putting that story together last night. But going through the interviews, I'm sure would trigger so much more from what I learned about how useful and effective that technology is. And it's right now in the UFL, the Brahmas are the only ones that have that technology. Of course, that software, the VAR systems, they call, I believe it's called, has been sold to hundreds and hundreds of football teams throughout the country at different levels, but specifically in the UFL, they're the only ones that are going to be using it. So that's an incredible advantage. And Chase Garber's also said everyone should be using it. So I think that should just give Brahmas fans a little bit more of something to look forward to. I mean, you know that it's getting done behind the scenes, and that's maybe why you should invest in paying attention to the team this year.
Because I really thought it was all the teams, but you're saying it's just the Brahmas that's using that technology?
100%, just the Brahmas, yeah.
But we all know
that's
that
going to
if
be
it's
a
successful,
huge game changer.
Yeah,
but if it's successful and they start using it and being effective with it, don't be surprised if other teams start picking that system up quicker and making it a part of their game planning as well. Because football, all sports is, kind of follow the leader sort of stuff. So
it's so innovative. And a question: have you guys been able to talk about well, now we know the outcome because of Sunday's roster cuts, but the battle at the kicker position between Matt Amendola and Donald De La Haye, have you guys talked about that on the show?
We talked a little bit about Donald De La Haye being a part of things because he's got such a following. We didn't know how that battle was going to work out, and I find it interesting that they went with the younger kicker, the less experienced kicker with the wider following. I wonder if that's a league kind of decision of we want more eyes on the product. And while Amendola is a great kicker and has been on this level plenty, we need eyes on the product, and that's something that destroying brings.
Seriously. So I laughed when you said Danny, because in an interview with Justin Smith, the wide receiver, he accidentally said Joe Flacco instead of Tom Flacco. Danny
Right.
Amendola, Matt Amendola, even though I don't think those two are related. It's just
I
funny,
don't think
all
so.
the NFL ties. But quickly on that, what I was able to kind of uncover was the okay, so you have Matt Amendola, an NFL kicker, obviously. He has extensive experience at the highest possible level. He had a couple game-winning kicks for the Texans last year. And then, as you just broke down, you have a YouTube sensation destroying who will bring a big audience. He specifically had a soccer background, so he can kick the ball further. He maybe not have the accuracy of a NFL kicker as far as like extra points, field goals go, but he has that distance. And if I'm not mistaken, the kickoff line is further back in the UFL
It is
than XFL. So I think that played a part in the decision because he has that distance with his leg. He can do that part of it better than Matt. That's probably the only like real advantage. And then of course the other off the field advantage being the eyes. So like innovative for the league with just doing bringing an audience, having that perspective. Like they're just doing so many things right now that I think is growing the audience, and it's going to be really fun.
Well, we want to let her get to her stuff. She only had a few minutes with us, but Mary, would you be adverse to coming on and spending more time with us in another time? I'm excited about making a connection with you and spending some time with your KSAT coverage. If you're not sure where to get your news coverage, your sports coverage for San Antonio, KSAT12 and Mary is where you want to go. That's what you want, right?
Yes, fact.
That's
yes,
right.
I would love to. You guys are awesome. I'm glad that I had the opportunity to chat with you guys, and I'm sure there's much more we could talk about. I'll be excited to listen to the rest of the show. But It was great meeting you, Philip, and seeing you, RC.
Yes, we'll keep in touch, Miss Mary.
Yes, absolutely.
And tell Kerwin that the Smoking Guns podcast says hello.
I will. I'll be sure to next time I see him.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Mary. We'll let you get back to your stuff. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
That's Mary Rominger. She is part of the KSAT12 coverage, doing a great job and spending some time with the Brahmas on. RC, did you get a chance to watch that story that was published today? She put out last night of the VR
I did
headset.
See some of it. I did. That's why I made that little thing like this, because that was what it reminded me of. I just feel the technology is bringing football to another level. Beyond just X and O's. And the fact that we as Brahmas are the only team that has that is very impressive. Very impressive.
Yeah. I won't be surprised at all if AJ Smith and Quentin Dormady or Chase Garbers or whoever the quarterback is, if they start seeing some success early on, I would not be surprised for the rest of the UFL to start going, hey, we need that VAR system available for our quarterbacks as well. And in a small league that is every team is owned by the league, don't be surprised at all if they have to start making that available.
Right.
Sports is all about follow the leader, and the team that gets has some sort of system that's working, all of a sudden everybody else starts doing the same thing. Brahmas football starts on the 31st on Easter Sunday, 11.
We had it first.
Right. 11 a.m. We're playing the DC Defenders next week. 2 weeks from now when we have our next show. We're going to try to bring on some DC Defenders folks and talk a little bit about the game that will be coming up between DC and San Antonio, right, RC?
Yes, we're going to be having the founder of DC Defenders. His name is Robert Jeffers. And so he's real big with the fans, and I believe he's coming down to the game. We're working really hard to make connections with the different teams that are coming tailgating. So I made contact with him through Andres Gonzalez, and we're already talking about giving a welcome basket. He's all on board, donating food items for our food drive. He wants to participate in our bunny hop. So he was just super excited. And so we're hoping to get him on. He said he would come, I think on the 25th. So we're just excited that we realized, I think, that as a league, we really need to work together. It's not one team or two teams that can sustain a whole league. We have to work together. And this is what the Brahma Mamas, the different organizations, the Facebook pages, we're trying to do that. That is our purpose.
Brian Winslow checking in. Hey, everybody. And he was on for Mary and enjoyed that. Robert Rankin has an interesting question. He says, I wonder how one team gets that technology when the league owns all the teams. Just because the league owns all the teams doesn't mean every coaching staff will immediately put the same value on new technology. Football coaches, like everybody else, have their way of doing things. AJ Smith, you heard her say, developed this software, and so it's his baby. It's his thing, and he's willing to integrate it into his offense quicker. Other offensive coordinators and coaches may be like, I don't know that we need all of that, and so they all work differently, and the coaching staffs, value different things. But I guarantee if it starts being successful, if it starts working, other teams will start petitioning the league and going, hey, we want that too. We need the access to that too, because sports is all about following the leader. So that is, tell us a little bit, RC, speaking of Brahma stuff, you've got your canned food stuff. You did some of this last year, and you're connecting with some more people this year to do canned food drives at each of the home games. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. Sure. So we're organizing with different people, Desiree, Andres, the Brahma Mamas, Smoking Guns podcast. And we're trying to really make that connection with the community, with football and interaction, right? So we're really trying to get very united. And we know that there's strength in numbers, and that's the key. So we're going to continue with the can drive. So everybody brings some non-perishable items. We're going to be in Lot B, row 1A, in that area where that sidewalk is. And so there's not going to be those huge bins. You just dump it literally in my trunk, and I will take it to the food bank. Other things that we're planning, because it is Easter Sunday, we are going to have a bunny hop. So we're asking all of the tailgaters to bring a dozen cascarones. If you don't know what that is, that's the empty eggshell with the confetti, or Easter eggs. We are specifically asking no candy, because we do not know about children's allergies. So if you want to put little stickers or maybe erasers or just an egg, and the kids are going to start right there in Lot B and go up and down the rows, we're not going to have a fine. So they're going to pass by your table while tailgating, and you can just hand them an Easter egg. We're going to be having pictures. We're going to have a guacamole cook-off. The reason we're doing guacamole first is because the game is so early, and we want people to have enough time to participate. If we did a barbecue one, there just isn't the time. So again, we're also offering a welcome basket to the DC Defenders. They've also know about the food drive, and they're willing to help. So really, we're going to have pictures. We're just going to have a very Easter egg, family-friendly, totally community, all fans welcomed event at tailgating. Everyone is invited. Everyone is invited to participate.
And here's the thing. I've heard a lot, and I've seen a lot, and we've even talked a little bit on this show about some Brahmas groups or fan groups or this group or that group, and some people setting up their own little kingdoms and fiefdoms and whatever. I don't want to hear that anymore. Like, that's not gonna get this where it needs to go. We're all doing this together. So
right.
Somebody pointed out to me today, the flyer came out for the canned food drive, And Brahma Mamas is one of the title organizations that is putting that together. And they said, hey, Smoking Guns podcast isn't on here, even though it's RC's thing. And I even kind of messaged RC and I was like, hey, that's kind of funny. I don't care. That's not the point. The point is not getting Smoking Guns podcast name on something. It is us gathering together as a community. So it doesn't matter if it's our thing or their thing, if it's Horns Forward or Smoking Guns or Brahma Bulletin, all those guys that have shows, I watch them, I listen to them, I support them. I think everybody should. The more people that are talking about and excited about Brahmas football, the better it is for our community, for our team, for our league. So this isn't an our thing or their thing. It's Horns Forward, so we don't do that. Forget that. We're all in this together. There are some folks out there that want to do that. That's just not us. We're not going to be those people.
No. Everyone is welcome. No matter what shirt you wear, what you wear in your head, what shoes you wear, it does not matter. What matters is that we keep football, professional football here in San Antonio. We need this league. We need this team. We need it to work. And we can only do that if we work together. Separation is never a good thing. And the whole league, the whole team needs to see that we're working together for one purpose. And that's what that one purpose is, for the UFL to succeed. We need that as a city, as a team, as a league.
And Mission Highlighter says, but Smoking Guns podcast is the best. I didn't say it. You said it. I didn't say it. No, the other guys, Brahma Bulletin is doing some great work. They're even covering some gunslinger stuff, which I love. Yes. Horns Forward, all 5 of those folks, very visible. In fact, if you have been watching TV at all over the past week or so, the Brahmas have commercials on San Antonio TV and on streaming TV. That's where I watch is streaming, and they are everywhere. And there are recognizable faces in that Alamo Dome commercial. You see the Brahma Babe pop up there. You see Jorge and Captain Mike Steele. All 3 of them pop up there in the midst of that commercial. And every time I'm like, hey, I know those guys. I know who they are. They are super fans.
I know him. I know her.
Yeah, it's very cool and very exciting. So if you're not going to be at the Alamo Dome on the 31st, I get it. It's Easter Sunday. It's early on Easter Sunday. For some people, that's just not going to work. It's not going to work for me. I'm going to have to watch this one on TV, but I guarantee I'll be right in front of the TV watching the Brahmas take on the DC Defenders. I know we just had a discussion with Mary about starting quarterback in RC. I know that's one of those things that is kind of a blind spot for you. The on-the-field stuff isn't always where you're at, but I will tell you, I think Quentin and Chase are 1A, 1B right now. I think that they like what they're getting in Quentin Dormady because he's been around and he's got lots of experience in spring football. That's important. On the other side, you've got Chase, and it's like, would we rather go out there with the guy we know or the guy we don't know? Is there potential here that we could, we may never discover if we don't put this guy in? So, as much as it pains me to say it, do not be surprised if you see both of them play on the 31st. Quentin starts, Chase gets some reps.
I'm okay
I've never liked that system. I've never really liked that system.
We saw a little bit of that back in the Commander days, right? Remember that?
Yes. Yeah, we did it back in the Commanders days. I did not like it then. We've done it a little bit last year with, we had so many quarterback issues last year cycling through. But even when things were stable with Jack Cohn, we were also bringing in some of his backups for, a time or two, for a series or two. I didn't love that then. Do not be surprised at all. Wade Phillips and AJ Smith last year were over in Houston. They did it with their quarterbacks over there. They shuttled them in and out. Don't be surprised if you see that between Chase Garbers and Quentin Dormady. I wouldn't be shocked at all if we see both quarterbacks.
Yep.
So let's pivot now.
I'm excited. I tried reaching out to try to find some of their moms. It seems like we have a little bit of a delay on the voice.
Yep, you do.
Okay, sorry about that. But I was just going to say that I'm still looking for moms for the mom-to-mom interviews. So if anyone out there knows some of the Brahma's moms, please have them contact me. Another thing that we need to work on is getting that connection with the players. We have some connection, yes. Well, we really need to maybe find the backstories as to why they're still in sports. Why are they still looking for that dream? And one of the best ways to get to know some of these players is to meet their moms. So if anyone's out there listening, which I know you are, and you know one of the players' moms, please let them get in touch with me, either through Facebook or Smoking Guns podcast, and we'll try our best to make that connection so your sons can be known throughout San Antonio and throughout the UFL league.
Absolutely. So let's pivot now. That season starts on the 31st. The very next night, April 1st, the San Antonio Gunslingers start their season. They're starting it in California, over in San Diego, taking on the Strike Force. We're going to bring on our next guest. He's not really a guest. He's like the fourth. He's like our Peter Best. I mean, he wasn't here before, and we didn't fire him. But he's like the fifth Beatle. He's the fifth member of the Smoking Guns podcast. It's Ralph Judkins. He's the Gunslingers play-by-play guy. Hey, Ralph, what's up?
Yeah, I think it's sort of like the third wheel, at least tonight. I'm the Leo replacement unit for the evening.
You probably don't love the Peter Best analogy. That guy got fired and didn't get to be part of the whole thing. So
I get it, and yeah, somebody had to miss out, and yeah, I've been missing out. I'm glad to be back here on the Smoking Guns. RC, love the new camera, love the look. Absolutely.
So Ralph, things are moving forward in Gunslinger Nation, and I'm not talking about some ethereal sort of the Gunslinger fandom is moving forward in Gunslingers Nation, which is actually a place that exists on a map soon. Things are moving forward. The practice field is almost set up. You were out there today doing some work, weren't you?
Just a bit, mostly pushing broom, nothing serious or involved. I wasn't involved in any player decisions or putting together playbooks or any of those discussions.
It's just a matter of time, Ralph.
I did move a bunch of boxes around. There's a lot of really, really good things coming to Gunslinger Nation, and a lot of them this week. Be prepared for a multitude of announcements. They're going to be announcing or revealing the Gunslingers Ball. They are going to, we already hinted on branded, a new fan experience prize. A coach detailed with the general manager, James Stubing, on branded last week that a lucky fan is basically going to embed and travel with the team, as well as another season ticket holder event is going to be announced as well. But so this is a last call, as it were. Not really a last call, but get involved now with season tickets, for crying out loud.
Right.
Starting at $9 a month, upsell yourself a bit for more. Get around a bunch of meaningless fees. Get on board. Talk to Weston as soon as you can. Weston Kahn, he's the guy whose number I should have up in front of me, but yeah, so call and get engaged. Go to the website, sanantoniogunslingers.com.
When we were out taking our tour of Gunslingers Nation, we walked across a bar that they have set up at one point with all of the business cards stacked up,
Yeah.
so that you can grab all the business cards. And as I'm looking across, I see James Stubing, I see Tom Manas, I see Weston Coln, and there in the back on that last final row, I see a card for Ralph Judkins. And you have a title. You have an official title on your card with the team. What is it?
You caught me. I don't have my card on me, but it's broadcast and I think operations assistance.
Yeah, something like
Oh,
that.
come on, Ralph.
Which I catch all for whatever they need doing, which is pretty much what I want to do for the team is whatever the team needs to move forward, to be part of this, because this is for me a never-ending fantasy camp, to be involved with the Gunslingers and to be involved with a team that is a serious contender and fully intends to win a championship this year. And a championship for San Antonio means a lot. In football, by a playoff system has never happened as far as I know. The nearest San Antonio came was the 1977 Charros. I forget the name of the league they were in, but they had the best record when they stopped playing. And that was the last time we had anything approximating a championship in San Antonio. This year, with the commitment of Don Rackler to this organization, to a one of only, it's as far as we know, the only one of its kind to exist at the IFL or the indoor level. The field is down. The field is in place. The players start coming in this week. The last day without the players is going to be Wednesday. They start arriving Thursday. We'll do physicals, and the first day of practice, I believe, is going to be this Saturday, weather withstanding.
So,
Mission Highlighter saying the American Football Association. That was the Charros League. Thank you, Mission's Highlighter.
there you go. So IFL football
Thank
is
you.
not coming soon. Ralph, IFL football is here.
This weekend.
The Gunslingers get 2 weeks to get ready for things with camp, but the IFL football season kicks off on Saturday.
Yes, it does. We have 2 matchups this Saturday.
One Saturday, one Sunday, I believe.
Saturday, Sunday. You want to run those down? I know that.
I know it's
Green
Arizona
Bay is-
at Northern Arizona on Saturday, I believe. And then I should have this information pulled up, and I don't. And then Massachusetts and Green Bay
and
Yeah.
Green Bay. Yes, the Blizzard
on Sunday.
And obviously the Saturday match very interesting for us because we play Northern Arizona April 6th at our home opener, 5 days after playing the Strike Force in San Diego. It just like last year, Phil and RC. Our opening for the Gunslingers last year was a nail biter. We looked at the roster and we were playing the champion, the runner-up, and a very good team in the first 3 weeks. And we were just saying, okay, well, we'll see how we come out of this. Well, we all know how last year went. We went 3-0 on that. Here we go again with a difficult setup that's going to be a test and really say who the Gunslingers are very early in the season.
First
It's a
4
challenge.
weeks of the San Antonio Gunslinger schedule: at the San Diego Strike Force, home against Northern Arizona, at Vegas against the Nighthawks, and then home against Tucson. That is all 4 of those are conference games, which means you come out of that ahead, you come out of that 3-1 or 4-0, you have set yourself very well for the remaining season. But then things don't get any easier. You have a back-to-back home and home series against Frisco, taking you through week 5 and 6. Frisco, if you've been paying attention to media around the IFL, Frisco and possibly Arizona are the in vogue pick right now to be strong contenders for the IFL championship. And we have to play them again, back to back, home and home. We start there on the 26th, and then we're back home the next week playing Frisco here. That's the first 6 weeks of the schedule. If you come out of that 6-week run with a a plus side on your schedule, a plus number, more wins than losses, I think you're doing okay. I think you're doing well.
And I expect that we will. I expect we will for a lot of reasons. The teams that we mentioned, Frisco and Arizona, these are very, very good teams. We don't play Arizona until later on. But Frisco, stable coach, you turn around, you've got players, you've got a team that people are expecting things of. And people don't know the Gunslingers. They're about to find out real quick here that there is a sense of
Not
continuity.
yet.
Yeah, they're about to find out though. There's a sense of continuity within the coaching staff and within the players. We are taking a significant slice out of a perennial contender team, players from a championship team, putting them all together and setting a very, very high bar of expectation. Players are going to come here. The rookies won't know any different, but when the vets come here and see the facility and see what's prepared, they know the expectation is to win. There is no other expectation but to win, and to win often and win them all if we can. Sure, there'll be learnings, there'll be hiccups, there may be a learning streak in our future. I don't know, but there will definitely be there's definitely going to be some performance here, because there's no other reason for the team to do what they did, for the ownership to do what they did.
So you mentioned that Northern Arizona plays this week. They do play on Saturday, 8:05 our time. Those games are available both on YouTube and now the Caffeine TV is an app that you can download on your Roku, on your it's very much like our Fuel network that we're a part of now, and that this show is actually being broadcast live on. It's another one of those apps that you can download to your smart TV, and you can catch all of the games on Caffeine, or you can just go to your YouTube app, watch them the way that you always have with Gunslinger Football. Why, Ralph, would San Antonio Gunslingers fans want to check in on Arizona at Northern Arizona at 8 o'clock on Saturday night, which that's when it's live, but it's going to be up there, after that. Is there any reason, Ralph, that we should care what's going on in that game?
Oh, you definitely want to watch that game, because I know all the coaches will be watching that game more than once, by the way, because obviously that's our home opponent on April 6th. And Northern Arizona, it won the championship in 22. They were predicted by Ducon Williams to finish dead last. And that's been the thing with the IFL, is the last 2 years, the teams that were champions were teams that won one game the previous year. And so there's a lot of turnover there. But Northern Arizona is a contender team. We can expect Arizona is to the Arizona Rattlers will be the team we play last at home at the end of the regular season, and that game might have significant consequence. As much as the bad news is we have to play Frisco 3 times, we only have to play the Arizona Rattlers once, and that's at the end of the season. And I don't know what the pot's going to look like, but that game might very well be all in for the Western Conference Championship.
For that matter, we had this conversation briefly a couple of episodes ago. Leo and I did, but with San Diego, we only played them once. They are a conference foe. We only play them one time, and that is to open up the season on April 1st in San Diego. That game, despite the fact that it's the first time you've seen IFL football as the San Antonio Gunslingers, that game could have real importance when we get to the end of the year and we start figuring out who's in the playoff picture and who's not, or where we're playing those playoff games, right?
That game matters a lot for a lot of reasons, not just standing. This is the first test of the organization. They are traveling on a road game away to a city that is far away, 2 time zones away, logistically at the end of our tether, to go into and play a different game. Football is football, but this is the IFL. And everything that the coaches have worked on all the way through camp and planned for, and the players have worked on all the way through camp and planned for, we have to put the cards on the table and we have to play with the hand that we have. And it's going to matter because it's a long way from home and it's a test for the organization. Not to mention coming back, turning around and playing again. That's a legitimate test of the organization as well as the players that we send out there.
Now, you get to do the coaches show with Coach Manas. And we've talked a little bit on this show with Coach Manas about how confident he seems. Even in that game in San Diego, he's talked about winning by 30, winning by 40. And some folks have reached out to me and been like, he didn't really believe that. That's just kind of bluster on his part. He's just as nervous as anybody would be going into a brand new thing. Ralph, you spend time with him and both on air and off air. That's not the case. This man believes he's going to go in and just kind of run roughshod over a lot of folks in this league. Am I wrong?
I want to hear what RC was going to say if we've cut the lag down. RC? Oh, I guess not. Okay. Coach Manas is extremely confident for a lot of good reasons. He got to assemble his coaching staff. He chose each one of his coaches. They're people that wanted to work with him, that he wanted to work with. Then he went on and assembled his own team and the players that he has wanted and as the general manager has picked. The last time Tom Manas did that was in 2022, and he took the team to a championship.
Mm-hmm.
The previous time he sort of got to do it, he had to do it over 8 days, and that was in 2021, and he took the team to a championship. And so with all the pieces in place from those known facts, he was hired September 1st. He's had time to build all this up together. Plus the commitment of the Racklers, John Wayne, to build this facility that you've seen, unprecedented. This is many, many more reasons why Coach needs to be confident. In fact, I would consider a letdown if we did not win by 30, because that would be the defining statement. Simply because we expect to score every time we get the ball, and we expect to get a stop. We have an extremely veteran offense. We have a young but very aggressive and capable defense. We're just going to score. And all we need is one stop. And as Coach has said famously for the last, I want to say, 3 years, if you don't like us, beat us. And you don't like it, beat us. Prove us wrong.
Well said.
We'll shake your hand, but we're coming for everybody. We're gunning for everybody. This is the Gunslingers, and look the heck out, because it's gonna happen. It is going to happen that we are going to put a team on the field that is stacked. We're going to put on a team that is very well led by the coaches. So I don't think the confidence is misplaced.
The only thing that has slowed down Tom Manas in the past 3 seasons is literally an organization crumbling out from underneath him. That's it. That's what it took to slow down Tom Manas when it comes to putting championships together, was last year's complete and utter collapse of Albany. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a huge debacle, really.
I want to say something about the one game that he did coach when they brought him back to play that game against West Texas. Go back and watch that game, realizing that Coach Manas arrived on Wednesday for a game on Saturday to coach a roster he didn't build, bring on a player that had never played a down at quarterback indoors, threw 2 interceptions right off the bat, and that game came down to the last play on defense where West Texas had to score. And how did the score happen? A player who was new to the defense and new to working with Coach Manas as the defensive quarter misunderstood the signal call for that play, played press when they were supposed to be playing back, and that's how the score happened. And it took that, an error that was inevitable, entirely expected given the limited time with the players and limited time for rehearsal, and that was the difference in the entire game. The fact that that game was close is attributed to the leadership ability of Tom Menas. Given how everything else went before that and after that, the guy walks in 3 days and contends.
Yeah, and you can't even throw, because I know that somebody out there would go, yeah, but it was West Texas. 3 days. A quarterback that had never played indoor football before, and that is, at that position, the nuance is more than a nuance between the difference of the outdoor game and indoor game for a guy in that particular position. A defensive lineman lines up and tries to get to the quarterback on either field. A quarterback, the game has changed drastically. And their quarterback there for that game in Albany had never seen indoor football before.
And we saw this, I don't know if we're watching the other three-letter league that started exhibition this last game. Three of the teams that
I wanted to talk a little bit about this.
You want to talk? Can we talk about the NAL? If we mention the NAL.
Yeah, we'll talk about the NAL.
The thing about those NAL games, all of their opponents were not, I don't believe any of them were indoor football teams at all. So you take a team that plays outside, bring them inside, and tell them, okay, there's the walls, go ahead and play. You could see the difference with the quarterbacks in their release. The quarterbacks thought the field was small, and so they're trying to gently loft the ball out there. Their releases are not fast. They're not throwing ropes. They're just trying to lob it. And indoor defensive backs look at that and go, ha-ha, I've got it. And interceptions all over the place. In one of the games, you could see, and it was a joy to watch, the quarterback from one of these outdoor teams evolve their game over the course of the game and start getting smarter and throwing better. And it was great to see. Didn't help them, they lost. But it was a lot of fun to watch that growth. And just think that you've got a NFL prospect kind of quarterback who's used to slinging it and throwing it hard, trying to make that transition in one game. That's a big ask. And they almost did it.
It was some good experience for him to get his feet wet.
So many of you know that one of my mantras that I live by is you don't build your tower any taller by knocking others down. So the next few minutes is not in an effort to do that. But I have been paying attention to the NAL over the past few weeks. We've seen two teams already fold. I watched the coverage of the Colorado Spartans because I was very interested in Coach Fred Shaw and how he's going to do over there, which I think he's going to do great. I have nothing but respect for Fred Shaw, and I hope he has nothing but success in Colorado. And as I'm watching the game, in fact, I even messaged you, Ralph, and I said, I'm watching this game right now, and I'm so glad we're in the IFL. It's not anything against what Fred Shaw was doing. Yes. It's not anything. It is not anything that they're doing wrong. But the level that the NAL is on is just not the level that the IFL is. And I am so excited about real, serious, professional indoor football for the first time for the Gunslingers organization. Remember, Ralph, RC and I have been with this from the beginning, from the barn. And we've watched this come up. So to see this kind of matriculate into what it's becoming is a big thing for us. And I was so glad as I watched some of that game today that we're not in the NAL anymore. I'm glad it's time to move forward.
And did that game not feel a bit like a barn game?
A little bit
in Colorado.
A little bit like they did not. And again, I'm not bagging on them, but they didn't have the uprights up.
Yeah.
So they couldn't do any of the kicking because they just hadn't had time for uprights. The Colorado Spartans uniforms, I don't know if they haven't had time to finish out the uniform. It was just a white helmet, no markings of any kind on the helmet, just a white helmet and their Spartan jerseys. Did get to see Fred Shaw. He's out there doing his thing, and they won 70-12, which is what I would expect from Fred Shaw. And but just looking at it, the broadcast, Ralph, I know that you paid attention to the broadcast side of things, was a little rough. But they're learning. It's preseason for them, and they're just getting into it. I'm not going to bag on them for that because we were all there once. We
Yes.
were all learning as we went at
Every
one
single
time
one of
when it
us.
came down to broadcast.
And I'm glad we're going upward.
Right.
I'm glad we're going
That's
upward.
that's the key. I'm glad we're moving forward and moving on to bigger and better. I don't begrudge them what they
Yes.
have in the NAL level, but as I watched the Topeka Tropics and then the North Texas Bulls, which I will knock a tower down a little bit. I don't usually do this, but I got so many people.
Schadenfreude. So much Schadenfreude there.
So many people reached out to me as North Texas announced that they were going to be in the NAL, and we announced almost at exactly the same time, within the same week, that we were going to the IFL, and they were like, "Huh, I guess the gunslingers are afraid of the North Texas Bulls. They got scared of us because we beat them so bad when we were both in the AAL. I guess they're running from us. Where you at? Where you at?
Yeah.
You're not even in the NAL anymore. You didn't even play it down."
Well, there are some people I feel bad for, and the first one of that, of course,
Yes.
is Robert Kent,
Yeah.
because he was slated to be the quarterback there this year, and I want to see him play. I always want to see him play. I always want to see Robert do well wherever he is. He's an inspiration. But yeah, there you go. And yeah,
I can see him
he wasn't
definitely
one of the ones that
being a
reached out to me,
coach.
by the way.
go ahead, RC.
I was just going to say, I see him more as a coach. I love seeing him play, but I think coaching is going to be his niche.
I have little doubt of that. He's already obviously he's a leader in his job. There's so many teachers in this league. He's another one of these teachers that play, and he was a leader and a player coach here in 22.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a common thing for him. Yeah, I definitely wish Robert Kent all the best wherever he goes. But yeah, 2 teams out, so they're down to 6. I thought it was a good start. I'm sorry things are not going as well as they should for the NAL, but for the Spartans, that was a preseason game. They haven't even made their final cuts. They have another whole week of camp.
Right.
So not having the names on the uniform, it's like, why put them on? The helmet logos, they might still be ordering the stickers. They're waiting for those to come in. They don't have a Jordan Stubing in Colorado, apparently, so there may be a little more lag time than the organization might be used to, because we usually have stickers the next day when Jordan's producing them. But the defense in Colorado was fierce. They had opportunities, and they sure as heck took advantage of it, especially in the second half. It's like, wow, hey, a lot of fun.
Yeah, 70-12 is a beatdown. Like it's a pretty rough game.
Yes.
For one side of the field.
And they did have a decent crowd on hand. I mean, there were people in the stands. It wasn't Fayetteville. I think they exceeded the Fayetteville attendance in one game versus the season numbers in Fayetteville. So that was a positive development for an NAL team.
For sure.
I'm sorry, I've got to say Fayetteville.
I am excited to know about the.
Go ahead,
I was going to
RC.
say, I'm excited to hear about the attendance whenever we have our first game at the Freeman. I think we're going to have outrageous numbers.
Well, I certainly hope so. And everyone that's listening, if you haven't got your season tickets by now, what are you waiting for? There's 2 reasons to get the season tickets. The first one is this is going to be a big deal. You're going to be an early adopter by getting on board and being a season ticket holder. Second of all, you've got the price lock. The prices of these tickets, the value of these tickets is only going to go up. We play in a championship. We win in a championship this year. Everyone next year is going to know and want to be going to Gunslinger games. the prices are going to have incredible pressure to go upward. They're going to go upwards, folks. Get your tickets now. You're on a monthly subscription plan. They had a price thing out that a Starbucks latte costs more. One single latte costs more than the month subscription for a season ticket. You're going to want to get in on this.
And winning a championship or competing for a championship changes the way that people look for tickets. If you need proof of that, yesterday I had a baby shower for my daughter and we got done with that and I was absolutely wiped out and tired. I went home, sat down in front of the TV and turned on MLB Network where the Texas Rangers were playing a spring training game. And just before I drifted off to sleep to take a quick nap, I heard the guys talk about the fact that the attendance at that Sunday game, that Sunday spring training game against the Chicago Cubs, against your Cubs there, RC, was 10 times what it would have been last year before they won the World Series. Now, you don't think that the ownership doesn't look at that and go, wait, more people want to come? We should charge more for tickets. That's the way the world works. That's the way supply and demand works. And that's going to happen with your gunslingers if you don't get your price locked in now.
So definitely do that. Get on the website, SanAntonioGunslingers.com. I think it's SAGunslingers.com. Yeah. Yeah, West.
So Ralph,
West
one of the things.
Go ahead.
One of the things that you have spent a lot of time with this offseason is getting into the IFL rules. You have made connections on the league level. You have been watching videos. You have been taking tests to see how you would do as an official. Some of those tests you've done really well at. Some of them you haven't. What are some of the things that not paying attention like you are need to be aware of as we walk into the IFL, and what do they need to be looking for?
Well, the number one difference you're going to notice right off the bat is two men in motion. There's also a lot of restrictions on what the defense cannot do and how close they can be to the line of scrimmage. And basically, the defensive backs, if they're within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage, they need to be matched heads up, what's called aligned, on one of the receivers. They have to follow them in motion if they're in that 5-yard area. So that's a big deal. The other thing that's new this year and is going to be new for people who are coming over with us from the NAL is the rushing of the linebacker through the A gap is no longer a thing. Basically, where the offensive tackles start, the offensive tackles, both sides, that defines a space called the alley, outside shoulder to outside shoulder. And as long as the linebacker comes through that alley, it doesn't matter what the three defensive linemen have done or the offensive linemen have done. Because in the past, the offense could shift to the left and take away any A-gap at all. This year, if you do that, the linebacker, as long as they go through where the tackles were, they're able to rush. So I'm expecting we're going to see an increase in sacks. The other thing that you're going to notice coming from the NAL and was evident last night is they are a lot more focused on not having unsportsmanlike conduct of any kind, that you cannot do stand-over taunt. For example, a player in one of the games last night flopped backwards into the end zone. That's an automatic 15-yard penalty in the IFL. They're going to get that every single time. Turning around and holding the ball out, directing anything at all towards an opponent during a celebration, that's going to get flagged. And it's meant to be a friendlier place. It's not street ball. It's not meant to be an endless parade of smack talk. And that's perhaps one of the reasons why the IFL is more successful with attracting and keeping a female audience, because it's not that kind of game. It's straight up raw competition between players, but it's kept on the field. So those are the key differences. we're going to see this year compared to the previous. It's two men in motion, and you don't have to worry about jack out of the box, but you do have a lot of illegal defenses that can be called and will be called. But you don't have to worry about the jack linebacker anymore staying within 5 yards side to side.
Yeah, important to note. I want to get back to some of that in a second, but we just had somebody check in that I want to make sure we all say hi to. Sochi Scott, checking in and watching. One of the best people we know, one of the greatest people we know, and who's going through a very rough time right now. We love you. We miss seeing you. We're praying for you. If we could do anything for you or your kiddos, you let us know. We're just a little podcast, so we don't have a ton that we can do, but if we can do anything for you, we're here, and we love you, and we're sorry that this is what you have to go through right now. We're with you. So good to see your name pop up here, and know that you're checking in with us. Anything we can do, you let us know. So, Ralph, let's talk a little bit about this unsportsmanlike conduct thing, because I think there will be people who, like me, initially go, just let them have fun. Let them enjoy scoring a touchdown. Let them, but then I think about it for just a few minutes, and I realize that a lot of the issues that we've had as San Antonio Gunslingers fans, both on the AAL level, the first league that we ever played in, and the NAL level, was a lack of professionalism across the board, and it starts with players and coaches being allowed to take parts of the game that shouldn't be on the field and elevate those times of taunting, smack talk, cursing back and forth between coaches and the fans. This kind of stuff is not, it doesn't have a home in the IFL, and maybe that's a good thing.
Well, a lot of, you got guys' emotions run high. That's going to happen out on the field. But is that the brand? Is there any check of that? If you've got young kids in the stands, they're hearing this. Is this acceptable behavior? The crowd cheers and yells when two of these guys square off and are butting heads. Is that really what we want to be promoting? And so this is a conscious decision by the league, by the head of officiating, to take a no-nonsense approach to the game. And we see more game. We have less stoppages for this kind of nonsense. And personal fouls, 15 yards on a 50-yard field is a huge penalty.
It is.
Little less than a third of the field, and you can't be sure that you're going to get a mutual combat and offsetting fouls at all. It can make a big difference. And so it's a decision by the league to support a brand that is affordable family fun, which totally matches with the Gunslingers. And to cap that off, I will say that your sentiment about being glad to be in the IFL was shared at the absolute highest level of the Gunslinger organization today at lunch at an undisclosed location, when after watching that game, that's exactly what the highest level of the Gunslingers had to say about it.
Well, and the other thing that we need to make sure everybody's aware of when we talk about these taunting or unsportsmanlike conduct penalties, this is not news to anybody, coaches or players in the IFL. You know that if they're not going to give any slack. If there's a question about whether to throw a flag, whether that was taunting, whether that was an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, you're going to get the penalty. Like, they've made that clear. I've seen the videos where they've told that to me as a fan. You can go find them. They're out there. They're not hiding them. If you're really interested in IFL rules, there's a whole channel. You can go watch them talk about how the IFL rules are going to be set up and what the points of
emphasis,
focus and emphasis are going to be this year. All of those are out there. I've watched some of those, and they're not making any secrets. So when your guy gets tagged for an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty because he held the ball out to the other player that was 5 yards behind him, the opposing player, just know he knew that was going to be a 15-yard penalty. He did it anyway, but he knew he was going to get tagged on that.
Yeah, and there's not going to be a lot of sympathy for that, and certainly not with the Gunslingers coaching staff. I think it's been a
Yeah, I
point of
don't
emphasis.
imagine Tom Manas is going to handle those moments very well. A couple of weeks ago, he was on the show, and I talked to him about a time when he was coaching for Albany. He came down to San Antonio. We actually won the first game against Tom Manas's Albany Empire that we played against them, and he had a rough time with the officials, which lots of people did, with the officials here in San Antonio, and he was getting pretty irate. And in fact, I was worried about his health. He was getting so worked up that I was like, this is not a young man. I do not want to have to see folks have to do CPR on this guy. He needs to calm down a little bit. I don't think he's going to handle it well when a member of his own team does something they know they're going to get penalized for that is absolutely unnecessary, and he loses 15 yards for it. He's not going to like that.
No, that's not going to that's going to go over like the proverbial lead balloon.
For sure. So, Ralph, what do you expect to see this weekend? We got 2 games. There's kind of the it's week 0. It's not really a week 1. It's not a full week of full IFL football, but it is kind of this it's not an exhibition. These games count, but it's kind of this highlight sort of portion.
Preliminary?
Yeah, well, maybe. Put on these 2 games. What do you expect to see? What are you excited to see?
I'm excited to see a triumph of coaching. We're going to see in Arizona, Northern Arizona, a really, really good matchup of 2 top flight teams in the West that are coming out to make a statement. These 2 teams don't like each other. They're interstate rivals, and Arizona, the Rattlers, have the advantage in a big way over a lot of teams in the IFL. But certainly with the Northern Arizona is going to want to come out and make a statement. For Arizona, the game is in Phoenix, correct?
It is it's in northern.
Okay.
It's at Northern Arizona. It's at the Toyota Center.
That will be even more interesting if it was played, because the Arizona broadcast has now been moved from where the Suns played to another location. So I was curious to see how the new production and the new location was going to go. The Northern Arizona broadcast is a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to hearing this. I don't want us to duplicate it, but they're the only broadcast I know in the IFL that actually mics up the players, and so you can hear the pad crunch and the quarterback grunting out signals on the field. And sometimes they forget to turn it off, and when the guy goes over to the bench, you're hearing a lot of loud conversation in the bench. So that's, for no other reason, watch for the broadcast, because they've committed to sound, and I don't know if that's going to continue this year or not. My dog is upset.
You're good.
Yeah.
That could be a little dangerous.
Yeah, he's
early on last season. We were using some stuff to get some similar sort of sound, some parabolic mics.
Yes.
To get some on-field sound. Are we gonna maybe see the return of that with the IFL broadcast now?
I don't know. In fact, one of the guys who is in the chat, Jay Riley, you put up earlier, he's going to be part of a meeting this week, and I think some of those questions are going to get ironed out at that. I don't know. I do know that we are talking about moving in a different direction with the broadcast as far as pregame goes. You're still on the broadcast, Phil. A different direction as far as pregame goes, where we're going to be basically showing the pregame coordination and activities that are going on in the stadium. as opposed to us bumping our gums about all kinds of things in a short pregame show. So that'll be part of it, and that's going to add another element sound-wise, as we'll be incorporating the PA as well as the official. And I'll tell you, I don't know if Mary Rominger is still watching. I know she's currently has a job, but I would absolutely adore having her as a sideline reporter because, dang, she would be so good at it. I was impressed with her interview early on. She's just rattling off stuff and talking about stuff. It's like, yeah, got game. She's got game. She knows exactly what she's doing.
There is nothing more important for somebody in sports media than to have passion for it. If you don't have a passion for it, it reads very quickly and people just don't like it. I think Jason Witten, not that he doesn't have a passion for sports, for football, he does, but talking about sports, I don't think he had that. I think that's why his Monday Night Football career just didn't work. You couldn't point to anything specifically and go, this is what's wrong with Jason Witten. It was just, It was just not, and Mary has passion for it, and she's excited about sports, and that's what. Oh, and she is still watching. Look at that.
Yes.
That's so kind. Thanks for welcoming me. You rock too, Ralph.
Thanks.
So, yeah, no, that's a big part of anything, and I loved her passion and her excitement about hockey, her excitement about the Brahmas, and maybe we can get her on board with getting excited about the Gunslingers too.
Well, you could feel it. You could feel it through the camera. She's sitting in a car. She's finishing up a long day probably, or is heading out to yet another assignment because they're just one after another in that business. And you could feel the passion for it. Yeah, the excitement was there. Yeah. Yes, definitely would love to have Mary Rominger as part of any broadcast I'm ever involved in. She's probably going to take my job at some point, but that's okay because may the best broadcaster win if that's what she wants to do. She's already got a higher job than I have doing sports for KSAT. So
right.
Got to remember
play-by-play for the Gunslingers is probably not going to be a career you can build your career on.
Well, the good news is my careers are kind of winding down at this point. I'm not having to go in for interviews and the hopes of getting a higher paying job because the travel's a killer.
Are you jonesing a little bit for IFL football or for indoor football? It's been the last game you called would have been in June.
Yeah, the Cobras game that cost us seeding.
Yep, absolutely. Last game that you called was back in June. I think that was even that's mid-June, maybe even late June for that matter. I was going to say it was early June, but that's not right. You ready to get back up there on one end of the field and look down the Freeman and see football?
Absolutely. It is. It's fun to do, to be part of it, to try to keep all of the elements in place and keep your mind about you and be coherent. And that's the hard part. Is to be coherent, and that's why I have an analyst, like you, Phil, helping me out to fill in the blanks when my head is down and I'm trying to figure out what the heck just happened. To have you step up and fill in, because that's the analyst saves the play-by-play more than once.
I will absolutely tout how good Ralph is at this, because if you go back and you watch shows, you watch games that he's done in the past, everything he's doing is on the fly. And so does he sound like Joe Buck up there? No. Do you know how many guys are feeding Joe Buck information? There's like 4 guys feeding him stats, feeding him notes, feeding him stuff for him to do play-by-play. He's got a screen that he watches the game on. I don't know if people know this. The professional sports, they have a screen with a little identification tag that follows every player around. And so when you're like, wow, how did he know that he threw that ball to CeeDee Lamb that quickly? He's got a computer screen showing him that information. Ralph doesn't have that. And
I've
so
got a
he's making
clipboard and
these
a pair of
calls.
binoculars.
He's making these calls, and does he sound like does he sound like one of these Kevin Burkholz or Joe Buck? Well, no, those guys are the best in the business, and they have all the toys. But we're working our way that direction. This year, we're going to play with some new toys, aren't we, Ralph?
Yes, got the technical director to help set me up. Yes, RC, we are elevating to set me up with a telestrator. I've got to get the TSP guys to integrate that, and you'll be able to doodle on a screen in your hand and then click the trash can button that'll clear all the graphics away. So get fast at sketching, Phil, because it's coming.
They're going to let me draw on the screen.
And Jay Washington, that's an excellent question. The Gunslingers are working on that. I'm sure Jay Riley will be happy to hear that because his son acted as interference for us on the broadcast, saving equipment. But we have had a director in the past struck directly on the head before the nets went up, and we worry about the equipment. But yes, there's going to be some kind of screening there. I envision, honestly, they could probably get a couple soccer goals and turn them around the other way in front of us just to protect us from the direct shots off the side of the net. I don't know.
It would not be all that hard for them to take one of those nets from last year, stretch it across the rail right there in front of us, and then carry it up, just diagonally up. And then anything that hit that net would roll down the incline back onto field level. It would not be very difficult if they still had that available.
I'm pretty sure the Gunslinger organization wants to sell the nets, but I'm not sure now is the best time to sell them given the fact that there's two teams that were supposed to have their own nets that have ceased to exist. So there's less on the demand side. There's a bit of a slump in demand, I think. But
yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah,
so Ralph, have you heard anything about the female announcer?
I have not heard further. I would certainly hope that somebody, the right person, is out there. Let's definitely revisit that. If you think you have the voice and the talent and the desire to be on the floor doing the promotions and working with game events, let us know. I got to say, as a guy ex-military, it is very, very hard for a woman to get loud and not sound shrill. That is a talent in and of itself that there are very few that have it, and that is worth money just to listen to because it's amazing when they can do it. So she's saying R.C. Woods should be the one to do it.
Sochi, yeah, vote R.C. Woods. And Rick Villa with another great option too. Carolina Teague would be an excellent option. And for that matter, if Mary Rominger is still watching, hey, they're looking for a hype person in Freeman Coliseum for the games. You may want to throw your resume over to the Gunslingers and be a part of maybe the on-field stuff. You're in sports media. You'd have a great time with it.
She'd be any capacity at all. We'd be lucky to have her. Any capacity at all.
I agree. I was very impressed. Very, very impressed. Ralph, when we walked into the very first season of San Antonio Gunslingers football, we kind of puffed out our chest and got very excited about taking on North Texas, and we were going to win by double digits, and we were going to go 9-0 in the league, and we were very, very excited to start because we were just going to run this thing. There is part of me that is nervous about the way that we're approaching this new season in a new league, in the best league, the top tier, and we all have this confidence about us. Am I right to be a little bit weary of puffing out my chest a little early? Do we need to see how some of this plays out before we get really, really excited? You're as close as anyone that we have on the show to this. Are you excited? Are you buying in to this contender mentality, this win by 30 sort of thing? Is that accurate? Is that something we need to get excited about?
For the first game, absolutely. If we do everything we're supposed to do, that's what's going to happen. If we execute, that's what's going to happen. If we hit anywhere near our potential, that's what's going to happen, because they're going to be prepared. This is an experienced offense we're putting out there on the field. Sam Castronova's throwing the ball to us. We have a surplus of very good talent at receiver. We're developing talent at running back. Now here's something to consider in the short game. We liked our short game last year. We liked what the quarterback and the running back were able to do early on in the year in the goal, down on the goal line, those last 5 yards. You realize we have Zach Brown, who's going to be playing defense, who you could hand the ball to in a heavy package, a monster package, and I don't know who's going to stop the gunslingers inside the 3-yard line, because you've got a big guy back there, and in IFL you can have another back, a tailback as it were, as long as they are 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage,
Right.
behind the quarterback. So you can have two backs in an I kind of formation. And don't forget who we have at quarterback. Sam Castronova is an extremely slippery quarterback. And so down on the goal line, we've got options. And we've got power. So as far as finishing a drive, I'm not worried about it. As far as getting completions to receivers, I'm not worried about it. We only need one stop on defense, and our defense is only going to get better. Look at who we have coaching our defense. Well, it's Tom.
Right. And coaching the offense, we have James Fuller, the NAL Coach of the Year last year.
Yes.
Let's go back to rules talk for just a second. I want to point out something that I know the casual fan has no idea. There was a rule last year that you could not go into motion in the box. You talked a little bit about that box that is created by the offensive line. It goes back 5 yards. You could not have motion in the box that moved toward the line of scrimmage. If you did, it was a illegal procedure, and the play gets stopped, and it just stops everything down. The IFL is one of those leagues that looks at things every year and goes, well, that didn't work the way we thought it would. And so this year they've made a change to that. As you are moving through the box, you have to be moving in some sort of parallel format to the line of scrimmage. It can be diagonally. The only thing you can't do in that box is direct perpendicular motion to the line of scrimmage. I love the fact that they looked at a rule that they had last year, and it makes sense. There's a reason the rule exists. We could dive into the whole reason why, but anybody who thinks about it for a second will go, you can't have players moving directly at the line of scrimmage at the snap within 5 yards. They're just an extra blocker to blow things up. Like, that makes perfect sense. So they put this rule in place last year to prevent that. They watched it for a year and they went, it does what we want it to do, but it's not as clean as it can be. It's causing a lot of stoppage and slowdown in offensive play. There's got to be a better way to do this. And so they went and they fiddled with it, and they found a way to try it again. Does that mean it'll work, Ralph? Does that mean that this is going to be a great rule now? It's going to be perfect? No.
Yeah, they'll continue to evolve. I got to say, one of the reasons behind this particular rule that you're looking at and other changes, the lack of A-gap rushing requirement going away, was to simplify the game for the officials. Mm-hmm. What you had to make for a judgment on that play was whether the back that's moving into the box was inside the box, inside the tackle, when the ball was snapped. And at game speed, that's a very hard determination to make. Were they all the way in, or just their first foot in, or half of their body? It's got to be all the body, all the way in. And the teams will practice and rehearse this kind of inside jet sweep, fake jet sweep, direct snap kind of thing to get this down in order to worry about this rule. And it makes it hard for the officials to read that. And so they simplified it. Likewise, the A-gap. Well, where was the belt? Did they make it through the middle? Was there a twist, et cetera, et cetera? They're going to worry about twists, but they're not going to worry about the A-gap restriction of the linebacker. And that's to make the game easier to officiate. In the last training tape that was put out, they said they're going to have somewhere between, 30 and 40 new officials to the league this year because of expansion. There's a lot of new officials that are going to be coming out this year, so they wanted to simplify the game a bit, and that was one of the areas. And so the rules are always evolving. They're always looking. And since we're talking about rules again, I got to add one more thing. I don't know if you had a chance, Phil, to watch the tape that was put out on how games are evaluated, how every single aspect of every single play is looked at after the game is over. Every official has everything they do scrutinized by 2 or 3 evaluators that are looking at the game. And the officials can't help, if they're paying attention to their evaluations, to get better because they're getting feedback. And without feedback, you can't really improve. You just, okay, I'm going to do what I can.
Well, I'm going to be worried about all those new officials.
They're coming from the NCAA. So that's the primary rule set. These are, if you've been to UTSA games, I would not be surprised if more than a couple of the guys that were calling games here in town are going to be calling games here in town. And there's the crew in Frisco that'll probably be coming down, and there's going to be some learning all the way around. And we talk about things we're excited for. I'm going to be excited to see how all this training pays off. And they do very, very closely evaluate. I think Jay Washington has the comment there that they really do go through, as Jay said, everything very, very carefully, every aspect of the play, every player, and look at it and provide comments on no calls, on actual calls, if something was missed, what could have been missed, and they receive a score at the end, positive or negative, for every call that's made, every single time. They're very well trained and they're very well evaluated, but they're still human beings, and this game moves awfully fast, which is one of the things we love about it.
Well, and this is something that we have wanted. We've wanted accountability on the officials in both levels that the Gunslingers have been on before. We have griped a bit about the accountability on the officials level. Why can't they be better? The AAL was a dumpster fire as far as officiating goes. The NAL was better, but they had so much to do and not a full office to do it with on league. That's league-wide.
Right.
They were doing too much with too little. That's not the case here, and they do have the time to go through and get better. Does that mean if they miss a call, that's going to fix that they go back next week and they look through and they go, you missed a call here? No, but hopefully by the end of the season, that same official is not missing that call anymore because he's gotten that note and that rating, and hey, you have to watch this. And so as we get further into the season, it might be rough the first couple of weeks of the IFL season. We might see some issues.
Well, they'll either get better or they'll get
So
replaced.
we agree to give them some grace?
I'm
gonna
sorry,
have
RC.
to.
I missed that, RC.
I said we agree we're going to have to give them some grace.
I would certainly expect that it's never going to be perfect, but you were talking about the dumpster fire of 21. I would say that might not have been so much a dumpster fire, but an accumulation of wood, how they all came together to discuss every single play. It wasn't really burning. It was actually cooling things down. It was like smothering the action of the game. Oh, there's a call.
Yep, they missed a trick. The logo for the AAL that season should have been a huddle of referees, because that's what they were in every game, every single game, all the time. And what's funny is some of those same referees were the referees that we saw move up to the NAL, and while they weren't perfect, they were better. Why? Because they got better support. And we're going to see that kind of jump again happen. Even if you see Gary Vaught out there, officiating games, and you're like, dude, that's the same guy that was with the NAL. If he's getting more support, more training, more teaching, he's going to be a better official.
Yeah,
That's just
more
true.
feedback. I think
Yeah.
anyone would be better. You talked about taking the exams. Well, that doesn't qualify me to be an official any more than passing the initial driving exam qualifies me to race Formula One. It's it's all about grass time. I am not an official. I will never be an official. I will never officiate anything anywhere probably ever again beyond T-ball. So there's no fear of me wearing stripes, but it certainly gave me an appreciation of the game and an appreciation of the inner workings of the game, and I'm excited to get back up there, Phil, and do a call with you and get a sense of this, because we're going to do 8 of these this year. It's going to be even more, and they're going to matter even more, and I'm looking forward to meeting the IFL audience via chat and us showing what we have as a crew. And I know Jay's listening, so what Texas Sports Productions can do, because I think when we are hitting our potential with Texas Sports Productions, the broadcast company, we are as good as anyone else out there, and
Absolutely.
I think we are going to be better than anyone else. And again, we talk about confidence and maybe overconfidence. TSP's been doing this for years, and we are refining our craft, and the IFL is about standardization, and we can do standardization like no one else's business. And we may not have microphones inside the players' pads, but we have some great shooters. We have one of the bravest shooters on the field with a camera that is down on the field. I mean, the games in the NAL where he's like right over the shoulder of the quarterback every single time. You can't get any more in the game than our on-field shooters, and our sideline shooters do well. Our directors are good. We overcome a lot of technical difficulties that we never hear about, never see, but it's a darn good crew. And this year the IFL does have recognition for best broadcast, and I'm thinking TSP is going to be in contention for that.
Well, I'm excited to get up there and spend some time with you doing a call. I hope that is April 6th, but I'll be really honest, the more and more, the closer we get to that date, I may have to have a sub on that particular day, something I've made no secret about. April 18th might be my first game in the booth, because my grandson is due on April 4th. They're going to induce labor on April 4th, and I don't know that the smart thing for me to do is to go call a game on the 6th. If I can get there, I'll be there. If not, somebody else is going to have to hold things down with Ralph for that first game, and then I'll be in the booth on the 18th as a brand new grandpa.
Hey,
Pop.
Mary, you want to be an analyst?
Call me Pop.
Yay.
If you're still out there, we got a position. Yeah. We need to.
It's like, hey.
Oh, Jimmy Hanna checking in. The guy who types in all caps. That's how I know it's Jimmy Hanna. I'm not giving him a hard time. That's how I know before I read the name that it's Jimmy Hanna. He's a huge Arlington Renegades fan. He is pumping his chest all over that trophy that they got last year. Let's see what happens this year, man. I don't know that Arlington is going to be the champions again. They might be. Who knows? Like, you never can tell. And certainly with the UFL, everything
Never
has
can
changed.
tell.
Everything we thought we knew through the XFL last year is all different again. So who knows what's going to happen this year. But he's proud of that championship they won, and he should be. Your team wins a championship, you should be proud of it. I'm not going to take that away from anybody. The Jacksonville Sharks should be very proud of the 4 trophies they've gotten to hold up. One of these days, the San Antonio Gunslingers, maybe this year, get to do the same thing. San Antonio Brahmas too. We're going to win championships all over the place. How about that?
Sooner than later.
Who knew that San Antonio could become a mecca to professional football excellence?
Right? Ralph, what do you think will be the moment that it all just kind of comes together, and you're like, okay, this is real. We've heard all off season. Tomanos has come in. We've changed leagues. We've heard about a brand new field that's getting purchased. We have seen all of these player signings come in. We watched this coaching staff get put together. It's still kind of an idea in my brain right now. It's not actually a thing. When does it actually become a thing? Is it really, are we really going to have to wait till kickoff on April 1st for it to feel like this is real?
I've got a couple moments in mind. Sam Castronova's first touchdown pass to Kali Rashad, and Jeff Ejeckham slapping a ball out of
so
the
we've
air.
been talking about this. Do you think it'll be to
Yeah.
Kali Rashad? Do you think Kali Rashad will be on the team?
I think so. I think so, but I don't know. And we all have our favorites, but it comes down to numbers. It comes down to proven facts. If Kali shows up and works his butt off, again, the talent in this young man, the talent that he possesses for his size, but nobody's guaranteed a job. Nobody is freaking guaranteed a job. I mean, Sam Castronova's story.
Wait, we say that, but Sam Castronova is going to be your starting quarterback. Barring some kind of freakish thing happening, Sam Castronova is your starting quarterback.
We fully expect that, but you have to know Sam Castronova's story, because Sam Castronova was behind somebody in Albany that they were all saying was going to be it, and in fact was the starting quarterback for one game. And the performance wasn't there, and he was gone. Just gone. That was it. And that's going to be it.
Jay Washington, I know it'll be real when I make another chicken fried joke to Zach Brown. That's right. Zach Brown, the one-man band. If you don't know what that means, if you don't understand Jay Washington's joke, you need to listen to a little more country music. That's all I can say about that.
But you've got a lot of talent. When that talent goes out on the field and that talent executes, it's going to feel real for me. It's going to feel real when they go to San Diego. I won't be there, but either at the watch party or wherever I am enjoying that game, when they go out there and they execute and they get the win by 30, they get a win by more than 30, they threaten 40, and they throw the odds makers, and it's like we need to rack up the over when these guys are playing because of the offensive output. It's going to be real. We come back here 5 days later after that game and come into San Antonio, and we're facing an extremely loud, extremely fired up crowd here at home, and they're backing our guys in front of our own crowd, and we take on a very, very talented Northern Arizona team that has no idea how loud this place, the Freeman Coliseum, can get. It's a resonator dome made of concrete and steel. It was made before the Second World War. It's got history. And we're out to make some history.
The battle for the logo. I realize nobody's going to sign on this, so it's just a Smoking Guns podcast thing. But we really feel like that game, the winner of that game gets to keep their logo and their uniform and their color scheme. The loser has to change something.
All white.
Just
you have to wear all white.
The Northern Arizona and San Antonio Gunslinger thing. The other thing that we noted a couple of shows ago, the Northern Arizona Cowboy and the Smoking Guns podcast Cowboy are nearly exactly the same thing. And what's funny is I went back to look and see like when they were incorporated, when they would have been putting all that together. It was practically the same summer that we started the show. So really neither of us can point to the other and go, you stole it from us. We were both doing it right around the same time. We just had great minds thinking alike. So,
well, it's a good logo. I really like ours. I appreciate the design that went into the Northern Arizona, the star on the horse's head being the gap of the A, and all the lines that come together and the reins and everything else. It's a cool and an interesting logo. I still like ours.
I agree. The Gunslinger is just it's nice. It's great. Hector Garcia did a great job putting together the the gunslinger peering over the top of the 6 shooters. It's an excellent logo. It's really, really great. Hey, those guys, the OG3 are connected with the Corpus Christi Tritons in the AIF. They are starting their season this week, this Sunday in Corpus Christi. Is their first game. Wish them all the luck, man. I hope that really works out well. I hope I can jump online and find that game somewhere.
Yeah, I was gonna say they up on
Me too.
Facebook Live, Periscope, somewhere.
I hope they'll be on YouTube. I think they have that ability. So I'd love to see their games on YouTube. Yeah, I'll have to. Ralph, what do you guys got coming up on Branded this week?
Well, it's 0 week for camp, and I'm not sure what Coach has in mind, but we'll have a couple players around. Don't know whether we're bringing them on air. We talked about the coaches, but this is all about camp. This show is going to be all about the pre-camp, what we have arranged, how everything is coming together, because it's all real now. Saw the weight room put together, and as soon as all the weights were in the room, Jay Rich pulls out his phone, shoots a mini video, and that's somewhere out on Facebook immediately to hype the players up to say, hey, this is what you're coming into. The weights are in. There's a big graphic that went up part of the way up. The granite counters are installed. Last week you were talking about the shower stalls. I got to hang shower curtains today. So those shower stalls now have.
There you go.
Are they branded? Do they say San Antonio Gunslingers across them or anything?
Not yet, but that is part of the plan. Yes.
Gotcha.
Ooh,
Very cool. It is
so much to be excited about.
It's
absolutely.
It's a journey.
It's camp time. It's time to grab the sleeping bag. It's time to get the s'more supplies because it's time to go to camp. I don't know that they'll be eating s'mores together or sleeping in sleeping bags in tents there at Gunslinger Nation. That's what they should do. Forget putting them up in a hotel. They ought to get tents and pitch them right there at Gunslinger Nation and make them camp for camp. That'd be great.
I don't think so.
They might have the space, but I don't think they're going to want to do that.
Oh, the space is there. You can absolutely camp 21 people there. No problem.
Yeah, but
there's more than 21 though.
It's
40. You're right. That might be a little tougher.
Yeah, be a lot tougher, but yeah, camaraderie is what they're looking to build. Now everyone's coming in. Everyone's looking to prove they have a job. Coach has said multiple times the best football is played in camp. I've decided I am going to take a day off of work to go and watch the practice on the 20th because that's the practice that they've slated to bring in officials on and is going to be one of the final practices before the final cuts happen. So I expect that practice, that scrimmage, offense versus defense, to be pretty darn intense and pretty interesting.
Wow. Yeah, no, that'll be great. RC, you're leaving us here in a second. What do you got? What's left for your Brahma Mamas or for your Gunslingers? You got anything coming up?
We're just getting excited for the season. We're trying to meet up, just keeping the fans connected, which is the basic thing.
Gotcha. Get connected. Get connected if you are a female and you're interested in both of those. Get connected if you're a guy. They'll take you in those groups. Horns forward and guns up all the way around.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who gets credit as long as the work gets done.
For sure. Thanks, RC. Appreciate
That's true.
You hanging out.
Bye.
Tough night technology-wise.
I love the new camera.
Camera looks good. The delay we had to deal with kind of all night was a little bit tough, but hey, this is live TV. This is live, not TV. That's not what we're on, but it's live broadcast, and that happens sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Well, Ralph, that's as good a place as any to start wrapping this up. I appreciate you jumping on, spending some time. Let me ask you another question before we let you go. Do you think that there is any IFL play-by-play guy who is hanging shower curtains in the facility of the team that he calls the game for? I'll open it up. Do you think there's any football play-by-play guy that is hanging shower curtains in the team facility just to be around things and be a part of things?
I doubt that, but I consider myself lucky, and I bet all the other guys are jealous because they never got to go inside the training facility and hang the very first shower curtains for any team ever. So, so unless there's a new expansion team in the NFL somewhere where the play-by-play gets to go in and do that, I'd be happy. I'd die happy to know that that's my contribution and legacy and entry to the non-existent IFL Broadcasters Hall of Fame.
The years from now, 10 years from now, on our 10th championship trophy, when they're beginning to just put names on things around the facility, and they put on the shower curtains the Ralph Judkins shower curtains. They start naming things after people that have been involved, and you get the shower curtains named after you, sir.
Yeah, they'll put a plaque on the shower rod.
Right, absolutely.
Ralph Judkins hung out here.
Yeah. I didn't want to say the Ralph Judkins Memorial shower curtains because that's not where we're going. But just the Ralph Judkins,
But it's never about me, Phil. It really never is. It's not about the broadcast. It's not about the broadcasters. It's about the players and the coaches that are on the field doing the thing. People ask why it is they do it. I'll say it a bunch of different times, but these guys are all part of a warrior cult. They are all a little bit crazy to do what they do. Not only are they out there performing at the highest level, trying to be the best athletic version of themselves, they're doing so sacrificing advancement in their what we call their day jobs, the other months of the year, in order to do this. Because what are you going to tell a boss that I'm going to take 4 months off to go play football? Well, a lot of bosses, they're not exactly going to lock you in for senior management track when you tell them that. So they're giving up future income. It's a strain on relationships. It's an absence away from your children. And this is the coaches and this is the players. The stress that these men endure, and the dancers as well, that they endure in order to be the best version of themselves out there on this field and just for the entertainment. I am fortunate to just be their herald, to be able to say their names and broadcast their accomplishments and their achievements to the world. It's freaking cool.
QB1 for your San Antonio Gunslingers is going to be a brand new father. Now, not a first-time father. He's got other kids, but they're having a baby within a month of the season starting, one direction or the other, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
He's going to miss 3 or 4 months of stuff to be a leader on this team, to lead this team, to be a contender for an IFL championship. That's the kind of sacrifice these guys are making.
Yes.
And so there's really no better way to wrap things up than what Rick Villa said. He said, last season, I was buying regular tickets for the Gunslingers. It was my first season ever. After last season, I'm a season ticket holder for the first time ever for a sports team. The Gunslinger Bandit is ready, and we're ready to see him out there in his full getup that he wears to the Freeman Coliseum. That's the way this has to go. That's what's going to make this all worth it, is seeing the city of San Antonio get behind the Gunslingers the same way you do your Spurs, the same way you do the Missions, the same way you do UTSA football. Get behind this team the same way you do your Brahmas. Get behind this team like you get behind those teams. That's what they need. They've made the investment. They have made a full investment in this community. It's time for them to reap some of that back. And that's what we've got to do.
that sponsors that are out there might be reluctant. They'll say, but the Commanders, but the Talons, that there's no stability, but the Iguanas, but the Rampage. Well, my only answer to that is yes. All of this is true. But name an owner that is building a $2 million facility here in San Antonio, exclusively dedicated to a minor league team. And that is the situation.
So folks that haven't been with us since the very beginning of the Smoking Guns podcast, we did a podcast for the Commanders, the Command Coast podcast. But when we started the Smoking Guns podcast, one of the things that we loved about this venture over all the other ones that had fallen apart on us was that it was local folks starting small and building to where it needed to be. It wasn't a just add water, ooh, you have a professional football team now.
Right.
From somebody in, New York. This was local guys. At the time, it was the OG3. It changed ownership over to more local folks who have made an investment in it. But it's maybe time for us to reiterate what a big deal that is and why this is different than the Commanders, than even the Brahmas. I love the Brahmas. I hope it's successful. But let's be honest, we've had one season of Brahmas football and it's on its second league. The jury's still out. I hope it's successful, but the jury's still out on the UFL, the XFL, whatever you want to call it. The Gunslingers have been around for 4 straight seasons. They've never missed a game. They've competed for a championship in the league they were in last year and their first season, believe it or not. They have a pedigree that they can hang on the wall and say, hey, we started and did this right and we're here. We're local. We're not just going to pack up shop and leave. And that's why the Gunslingers are worth supporting. And now we're getting to see some of that doing it the right way. It's been built, and now we get to see if they will come. If you build it, they will come. Now we get to see if that's true.
We may have to get a little louder, Phil. We may have to get a little louder. We may have to win a championship before people are won over. But the more they know about it, all I ask, folks, is, everyone who's watching this is already on board.
Right.
Come out to one game.
Absolutely.
Everyone is watching this. Bring a friend if you have.
Bring people. There you go.
Recruit a Rebel Night was a great theme from the great Star Wars night. Recruit a fan. Let them come. Bring kids. Bring young kids. Let them get fired up. What a treat. Bring couples that would just like to have something that's entertaining, and come out once you see this.
When you talk to people, because everybody that's watching right now is people that I expect to be there. I don't expect to have to talk you into coming to a Gunslinger game. But when you're talking to others and you do have to talk somebody into it, say, try one. Try it one time. If it's not for you, I'll never bother you about this again. If you don't have a great time, that's fine. It's not for I get that. It's not like everybody that walks through the door is going to sign up for season tickets. I understand that. But I bet 60 or 70% of them will, because it's exciting, it's fun, it's an enjoyable time, and it's worth what you paid for it. The value is there.
Non-stop entertainment for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Non-stop entertainment.
So talk to people. We're getting closer. We're less than a month away. We are 20 days away from the Gunslinger game season starting. We are 19 days from San Antonio Brahmas football in the Alamo Dome. Start talking folks up. And start paying attention to the IFL. Hey, it's here. The season is starting in just a few days. We get to watch Arizona and Northern Arizona on Saturday night. On Sunday, you can watch Green Bay take on the Massachusetts Pirates. Not as big a game. Northern Arizona is going to be a heavyweight kind of matchup. Green Bay and Massachusetts is 2 teams where I don't know what to expect out of those. But give them a watch. Start paying attention. Football is back already. We just got done with football in February. Now we get to start right back up in March. That's awesome. Why not be excited about that? Ralph, what time is branded on Wednesday?
7 p.m. Central. If you're in San Antonio, northeast side of San Antonio, come out to Matenga's Pizzeria. That
Is
makes
the pizza
us
good? Is the pizza really that good? Is it really worth?
Pizza is phenomenal. You don't know what you're missing till you come here. It is amazing. They're about to put a Gunslinger's Pizza on the menu, which has 5 different kinds of pork on it. Yeah, everything that is a pork product is on that pizza. It is a pigskin pizza all the way around, and pairs well with any type of domestic or imported beer you'd like to drink with it. It is amazing. Jay Washington verified. Jay Washington drove all the way from Austin to get and eat a pizza there, and he drove that far and said it was great.
And that's what's
Also,
great is
yeah.
because of where it's at on the northeast side of San Antonio. If you're up in San Marcos or you're over in Austin,
Yes.
it's really not that far a drive.
Yeah,
Jump on 35 and you'll be there in a few minutes.
Come on down, and you are in a room and it's crowded. If you've seen the videos, I flicked the camera over to look at the crowd. There are a few seats available, and what's entirely off camera, there's an outside patio area. And
Nice.
last week there were another 20-30 people out in the patio area that wasn't even on camera. Come on down, Matt Nanga there, and the food is great. You can listen to us yammer on. We've got a speaker set up.
7 o'clock Wednesday,
Yep.
just a couple of nights from now, or if you're listening to us after this on Wednesday evening, go and be a part of Branded. Or if you're not available Wednesday night, go to Matenga's another day and get some really awesome pizza.
Absolutely.
Doesn't matter. You can do that too. Well, I'm excited for the Gunslinger season, for camp that's starting up, for the IFL season. I'm excited for Brahmas football. I know that you're not a Brahmas guy. We didn't bring you on to talk Brahmas. Are you
too busy.
Are you gonna keep your eyes open? Are you gonna kind of look that way and keep an eye out for what's going on in Brahma world?
Why not? It's again, it's all part of San Antonio.
For sure.
I focused on indoor football. I focused on the Gunslingers, but rising tide lifts all boats.
For sure.
Attention brought is good. And
it's so complimentary this year. We can't promise that every year, but this year it works together so well. There's very few conflicts.
Somebody was paying attention. The only days that both teams play, it's a difference of one game's over, the other game can begin. Theoretically, it'd be possible to attend both games on that day.
Right.
You might be a little footballed out, but you'd be one of the most hardcore fans.
Look,
I'm looking at you, Rick. You're going to be at both games. You're going to be able to do a quick costume change.
Last year, I drove from Palacios, Texas. You can look it up on a map. Google Maps exists. I drove from Palacios, Texas to Houston, took in a Houston Roughnecks game, got on the road in the fourth quarter because I didn't want to be late getting back, drove across the state on 10 to San Antonio and made a Brahmas game, and then drove home after that game to Palacios, Texas. At no point did I feel like this was too much football. I might have felt like it was too much driving, but never did I feel like it was too much football. 2 games in a day sounds great to me. Go for it.
Especially when you're just going from one side of the town, actually east side of town to a little further east in town.
Right. Absolutely. You can make that happen. Alamo Dome and Freeman Coliseum are not very far apart. You can absolutely make those things happen. Well, Ralph, I appreciate you coming on in relief. I appreciate that we have a bullpen that we can pull on when the starters can't go the full 9. That's helpful to have you to reach out to. I'm excited about getting in the booth with you this season. I sure hope I can make the 6th, but there are things that are more important than football, and your first grandchild is probably one of those things.
Yeah.
I may have to miss that one. I am excited for the 18th. If I can't make it to the 6th, then we'll get started on some Gunslinger football. So you say it first. Nobody said it yet. 14-0.
We're going to compete every single game, and it would not surprise me if we are 14-0.
You heard it here first. Ralph Judkins says we go 14-0. There you go.
You don't like it? Beat us. That's all there is to it.
Right.
If you don't, it's what Coach said. If you don't like it, go ahead and beat us. We'll shake your hand.
Where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
I am at TSRNSA, at TSRNSA on Twitter, Ralph Judkins on Facebook. I'm not disguised in any way. That might change if I ever become vaguely famous. I'll just have to block all the harder. But I'm not a big social media presence because it's not about me, Phil. It has never, ever, ever been about me. I'm just the guy lucky enough to talk about these guys playing the game and trying to be the best version of themselves out on the field. It amazes me. So
Smoking Guns Podcast Smoking Guns Podcast is available on all your social media at Smoking Guns Pod. That's Smoking No G, Guns with a Z, P-O-D. We are brought to you by some amazing patrons who give us a little bit of money every month so that we can make this show go. Folks like Texas Pete, Alfred Rodriguez, who has been checking in with us tonight as the mission highlighter, James Palmer, Jay Washington, who's out there listening live, James Stubing, Kim and Greg Nelson, Mo and Iris Ferrante. We love you guys. We appreciate you. If you would like to be a part of that group that helps us make the show go, you can go to patreon.com/SmokingGunsPod. Again, that's Smoking No G, Guns with a Z, P-O-D, and you can join our patrons and help us make the show go. With all that being said, I'm Philip Higginbotham. I'm joined by Ralph Judkins, and I'm normally joined by my good friends Leo Yamas and R.C. Woods, both of them unable to be here right in this very moment. Leo, get to feeling better soon. RC, we're going to figure out that delay when we have a chance so that you can be a little more active in the conversation. That was a little rough tonight, Ralph. It is what it is, but it was a little rough tonight on that delay.
Show must go on.
Absolutely. When it comes to football in San Antonio, whether that's on the 100-yard field or in the 50-yard fight, whether that's up in northern Arizona or over in San Diego against the DC Defenders or all the way down in Jacksonville, Florida. When it comes to football, no matter what anybody tells you, the 210 has got something to say.
Bang,
bang,
bang.
There you go.
I've got noise cancellation. It's never going to work.
All right. Thank you, folks. The 4 or so of you that are hanging out with us still, we appreciate you hanging in with us for the show. Make sure you download the audio if you could tomorrow on your favorite podcatcher, and we will see you then. Next, in 2 weeks, we have a show coming. I think it'll be our last of the every other week shows. I think from that point on, we'll go weekly because we'll have football to talk about every week. There's just not enough right now for us to carry a weekly show. But we'll have football coming off the 25th that we can talk about. And so we will be joining you guys even more often to talk Gunslingers and Brahmas football. Ralph, I appreciate you jumping on, man.
All right. Thanks for having me.